CTAC. Can we get a roll call?
Tamara Banks,
I'm here.
Brett Beers,
Here.
Joe Bruto,
Here.
Rupert Farrell,
Here.
see Matt Rowe,
Here.
and Timothy Welsh.
Here.
Okay, Chair, we have quorum.
Just barely.
Do we have, and Connor, do we have anybody online? Any members online?
It's the captioner, sorry.
Okay, great. Approval of the agenda for this meeting. Motion for that.
I'll move.
All right. Good.
Rupert, second.
Okay. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Approval of the May 10th, 2023 minutes. Would someone like to make a motion for that?
This is Rupert, I approve approval of the minutes.
So Rupert, just one thing, a clarification thing. So we got word that your reappointment to CTAC technically takes place later this month. So I'll just need someone else to do the motions. Sure. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And just for clarification, Rupert, did you get correspondence for that, you got your reappointment, but apparently it doesn't kick in until June?
I didn't get the memo.
Okay, future, all right.
It's on the draft
okay.
agenda for the PC.
All right, great. Public comment. Comments and questions from members of the public are welcome at this time. Staff will also read comments submitted to the public prior to the meeting. Do we have anybody in attendance that would like to speak? Go ahead.
Good evening. I know that with the river study, there will be a study tonight entered in for fencing. But I would like to draw attention to page 26. In this section, there is a color-coded picture with orange and gray areas showing what has been developed or what may be in the future developed. And that's what I would like to speak to today. I'm from the England Run neighborhood, and the environmental impacts that could occur because of the proposed bridges, the road and the bridge could be significant in the area, and that affects the conservation easements and the riparian rivers. All of those things are interconnected through an environmental chain. Right now, the wording in that document says areas not outlined in the conservation easement are highly likely to develop within the near future. Adjacent parcels are either approved for development or have plans by landowners for development currently listed. So the things that are being spoken about are in place right now being proposed and developed. The remainder is zoned A1 or agricultural, which is low density use. So right now in that area, the zonings are suburban residential, agricultural, heritage protection, residential business campus. Recreational business campus. It also states that there are no expected additional sprawl development, but there is the encouragement of infill because there doesn't seem to be a lot of sprawl development expected in this area. But the infill is what I'd like to address, because even though you might not be putting more people, more homes, that type of pressure on the area, which is pressure on the environment by taking down trees, by building, by compacting the soil, by adding pollution. What I feel is that FAMPO right now, given your bird's eye view of what comes through the areas, you're in a unique position to control the amount, the speed, the density of what is going to happen. If all of these zoning stays as it is in this moment, things might be able to be okay. Environmentally, there's going to be a study. It will help guide you what can be done, what cannot be done. But if you change it, if you do something that rezones this area and the infill becomes industrial or heavy industrial, and then we start seeing a lot of stores, a lot of warehouses, a lot of parking lots, a lot of these types of structures that are coming in, changing the land, creating construction with the possibility of a bridge and road changes also, then you've impacted the area twofold. And that's going to stress the area even further. So hopefully, working through the process, the NEPA study will help guide what can be done. But without adding any more pressure, if it's to be that the road, that the bridge needs to be built in this area, do not add to it by changing the zoning, because that's going to put extra stress. Depending on what you're building in that area. If it's industrial, then you've got pollution, you've got large structures, heavy structures, a lot of construction. So that is what I'm asking or bringing forth. You have that ability to see in this area what the pylon is going to be, the pylon effect. Not only might we need a bridge and a road, but we might need this, and we might need that, and we might need the other thing. And in order to do that, we have to change the structure of the area. And it might not be in our best interest to have a low density area agricultural. It might be in our interest to have zoning changes. Now, as a resident, I only see one thing. See what is brought to me in terms of this is the problem right now. Problem number one, and it seems isolated. That's not the case. From your standpoint, as people who are guardians of what happens in the area and how building is done, how construction is done, how opening the area to help meet everybody's needs is done. Please have that bird's eye view. Please keep that in mind, that you are not seeing things as one single entity. You are seeing things come across your table, affecting as a domino effect, that this is happening in the area, that's happening there, and it's increasing. And we're putting stress on the area by choice, because you have the ability to make the ordinance, to take away the ordinance, to change the zoning. So it's in your hands. Yes, there are guidelines. Yes, I see that from the little bit that I've been a part of this, we're following the guidelines. Not a problem. But keep it in mind that your unique position as guardians of the area allows you to see what is happening cumulatively. And that's the
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to make a public comment?
Actually, I would just to kind of add on a little bit there. I'm not sure if this body is aware, but there'll be a public hearing at the next Stafford Board of Supervisors meeting regarding a very large rezoning of hundreds of acres that is south of Warrenton Road, but also west of Sanford Drive by the Belmont Park LLC. Hundreds of acres for a very large group of buildings and complex that is going to change the zoning to become light industrial and so forth. I mean, it's a massive complex, and if you can go on the Stafford Supervisor's website and actually look at what's planned, as it goes through, it is going to modify everything that happens in that area, not only for option number 2 of the river crossing, but also on the other options that are available. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Before we go to any more public comments, just for the record, could you all just state your names for our minutes?
Yeah. I'm Al Watkins. I also live on England.
Okay,
So going back in.
all right. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to make a public comment? Do we have anybody online that wants to make a public comment? Do we have any correspondence? Do we have any correspondence? Okay, I was gonna come back to you just because I had started it. No, all right, go ahead.
I'm Fran Larkins and I live in Celebrate. I'm sorry, I was a little bit late
That's okay.
jumping up here. I did not have an opportunity to attend the public hearing that was held in May. And I wish I could have been there, but I think one of the things that disappointed our group of people from Celebrate the most was we did not expect FAMPO to actually be taking a vote that night on it. We thought we had a little bit more time. So I just want to point that out. The other thing is that as we go, through the NEPA study and this type of thing, we want to emphasize that no matter which route, which area of that close to our community, whichever area they decide to build the bridge through, I think we all need to get together and fight that there not be any heavy trucks on that road. I think that's going to be extremely important for all of our homeowners and all of our communities, that if we cannot do anything to stop the bridge, then we need to keep the trucks off of it, or else it'll totally ruin. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else would like to make a public comment? Go ahead.
My name is Bill Skate. I have lived at the corner of Greenbank Road and Sanford Drive for 45 years, paid taxes the whole time. I was thinking it'd be interesting to add all that up. Several $100,000, I imagine. And the prospect of having any of our land after we've lived there, good citizens of the county, that's the way it works. I know it's happened everywhere to people, and it's the individual is not more important than who. But one of the things I've been thinking about is just the rezoning. If this happens to there, there's some new commercial zone land up near the Lowe's and Giant and all that. A lot of it has never gotten occupied. It's sitting there vacant ever since it was built, but new roads cause commercial infill, and that would just be a shame in that area. I don't know. I hope all of you have taken a personal look at that area, but it's a beautiful part of the county, and that's really about all I have to say right now. But I'm totally new to this whole process. I'm a lifelong woodworker, craftsman, and the house that we're in was built in about 1810, and I've done a lot of work to restore it and add on to it. And, about 6 acres right there. It's a pretty unique spot. Everybody's welcome to stop by and visit if you'd like. So I'm coming to these meetings just to try to get smart on how this process works. Hope to be able to come to all.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else want to make a public comment? There will be a second chance for public comment later if anybody wants to add anything else or change their mind. So on to number 6, the confirmation of the CTAC bylaws, which we did last time, but we're just making sure we get all the wording just right.
That was in the consent agenda.
That was in the consent agenda. Great.
We can move on unless anybody wants to Also bring that back out, but.
I think we talked about it enough last time.
I was like, just
Okay.
putting it back out there, I'm no shredded and raw.
All right, great. Number 7, 7A, final VCR trail study memorandum and presentation.
Carrie,
Great. Good evening, everybody. I'm Carrie Eves. I'm one of the transportation planners here at FAMPO. For the last many months, we've been managing consultant Michael Baker on this project. This project is studying 3 locations on the VCR trail, Route 3, Route 1, and I-95 at Hazel Run. So we were trying to figure out if we could cross these areas more safely. The first that Michael Baker talked about, actually, you've got this on the memorandum, right?
One out.
Yeah. So the memorandum is in your pack. Hopefully you have had a chance to look at it. If not, it's there at your leisure. We're going to be accepting comments on the memorandum until July 13th. So you can direct those to me, and I can make sure John, if you can make sure everybody has my email address to send your comments to. If you have any questions on it or comments, you can send those to me until July 13th. And here's the presentation. This is the presentation that Paul Prudhoe, Michael Baker gave to our TAC, and it's the final presentation they're going to be giving, so I'm going to be giving it to you here now. But I'm just going to go over it briefly. You can peruse it as you like at your leisure, as I said. So on the agenda, just going to do introductions and talk about the final recommendations that they came up with, cost estimates, and the next steps. The goal for this is to produce smart scale projects for each of these 3 locations. As I said, we're looking at I-95, Route 1, and Route 3 on our VCR trail. That is, we are trying to slowly grow from Fredericksburg all the way out to Spotsylvania County. Next slide. For Michael Baker, their task was to try and produce grade separated crossings to keep our cyclists and pedestrians safer as they're crossing these areas. They're producing sketches and cost estimates, and they've been doing meetings with all of our committees and coordinating with VDOT. Next slide. So through the course of the last several months, we've been looking into lots of different ways to go about it. Members of FAMPO, members of VDOT, and Michael Baker all went out and checked out the culvert that is present at Hazel Run under I-95 to see if we could maybe make use of that for our crossing. We walked under there. You can walk all the way under there, but unfortunately it's not large enough to be used for the purpose, and the drainage it doesn't work. So unfortunately we can't make use for that. So we looked at that idea. We looked at potentially doing a bridge over I-95, but you would have to get so high up that it was cost prohibitive and the maintenance would be too high. So we ditched that idea. So no bridge. For US Route 1, we looked at the possibility. Oh, and just, are you familiar with where the VCR trail crosses Route 1 near Kingsmill Drive?
Right, they put that new light in there about 5 years ago, something like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a grade separation there. So at first we were going to see if we could use the bridge that's just up here to see if maybe we could do a tunnel under there, but that didn't make a lot of sense because if you're a cyclist or a pedestrian, you're still going to cross right here. You're not going to go all the way up under here to use that bridge. Didn't make any sense. They tossed that idea. And then at Route 3, Blue Gray Parkway and Lafayette, there was some talk about coming over here, going along the national park land, down through this river valley, using the Hazel Run Bridge as a tunnel, and then coming up here, which was very picturesque, but again, not direct. So these were tossed out ideas. What we advanced for I-95 is digging a new tunnel, bi-directional tunnel, so one tunnel for both ways, just south of where the culvert is. So right now, the VCR trail stops just a little ways past Hazel Run, where there is a bridge planned over Hazel Run, And then that will bring us, that, once the bridge is built, then there is a funded round 5 smart scale project to bring the trail all the way to the base of I-95. That's gonna be built. And then this will be the next stage that we're studying here to do a tunnel out to the other side of I-95. Spotsylvania, in its comprehensive plan, has a plan to bring the trail on farther. Next slide.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So it's in their comprehensive plan, but have they allocated any funding yet or anything?
No, they haven't.
Okay.
Good.
I'd hate to have this brand new beautiful tunnel and then it dead ends on the other side of 95.
Well, right now, this is a
Yeah.
study, we're building chunks of it, we're trying to just
Right.
get it piecemeal done.
Why is it crossing 95 at an angle? It seems to me you'd save a lot of money by doing it perpendicular.
Right, they studied that, and this was best for something to do with the way both the,
But like the grading,
to do with the
Structural or something like
It's
that?
to do with the way the grade, the way the topography lies, that this was the best place to put it. Yes, sir.
At the last meeting, the fellow who presented that said that it started on the right where it does because that avoided somebody's backyard and it wound up where it winds up to avoid somebody's
Okay.
backyard.
There you go. He listened better than I did. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
City ends on account.
yep. All right,
So this is the part that's been funded by Smart Scale, will be built. And this just shows you approaching the tunnel and how they would have to build up, going uphill towards where the tunnel is. Okay, so now we're moving on to Route 1. This is going to be a bridge, a pedestrian bridge over Route 1. So I have to step back and look at these. Okay, so this is coming from the west side, the Kings Mill area, and this is the approach. Yeah, connecting to the existing VCR trail, the approach towards the bridge. And they're gonna have to build that up with some earthworks on either side and retaining walls. Next slide. And so here is your bridge over Route 1. Now what stopped us at first is we were worried about the traffic light and whether we, like what we're gonna do with the traffic light. But it turns out the traffic light was only there in the first place for the trail. Doesn't even need to be there for the traffic. So the traffic light can be removed and the pedestrians and cyclists safely on the bridge. And that takes care of that. This is just down the other side. Now these are engineering drawings, smart scale, so that we can prepare for the next round for round 6. So for Route 3, hopefully everybody is familiar with Route 3 and how dangerous that can be for cyclists and pedestrians, folks almost getting hit with that slip lane, especially coming from downtown and going right there. They looked at 3 different ideas, as I said, and the best one was crossing A, which instead of crossing right at the intersection where things get complicated, they bring it more towards Route 3 West. So the intersection's down here. They come up this way a little bit and cross straight and short here and over into this parcel. The city is talking about developing these parcels, maybe mixed use or commercial. And so having the little bike path coming in between them and going on over to the townhouses and developments coming up here. So that's the potential for that one. And then it also continues. Let's get so backwards around this.
This is Lafayette, that's
Yeah.
blue and gray, and then there's.
Oh, this is going into the city.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's going back into the city. So that was the top alternative for that particular crossing.
much cleaner and less complicated than it is now.
Much safer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the alternative was closer to the intersection and more complicated. That's crossing B. They both have their pros and cons, but crossing A was more favored. Next slide. See, it's closer and they have to worry about where to put the piers here for the sight line for traffic trying to go this way, so it's not as good.
Yeah, where was that Wawa gonna go?
It was gonna go like over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Royal Farms.
Yeah, Rural Farms, that's what it was. Yeah, it's gonna go in that parcel there. So these are the costs. However, caveat on these costs, they are only construction. They do not include right of way. They do not include engineering, and they are in 2023 dollars, which makes them of some limited use. Going back to the drawing board with the consultant on them, we're meeting next week to try and refine them quite a bit. So really don't pay any attention to them, in other words. So we are currently refining all of this. Everybody, TAC and VDOT and everyone are giving us their comments. We're finalizing everything, and we are hoping to run at least one of these through the next round of Smart Scale.
Great.
Any-
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Joe?
Okay, one thing I have to emphasize is tunnels can be extended, but if you got an overhead bridge, then if you're gonna widen the road, then you got a problem. You have to redo the bridge. So, so I guess the two of them, Route 1 and Route 3, are gonna have bridges. And I'm just concerned with them being wide enough, if the road is widened, that you don't have to redo the pedestrian bridges.
So VDOT has absolutely no plans to widen either of those areas in the next, like, we spoke to them about that, and there are no widening plans in either of those places.
You don't know what's gonna happen, 10, 20 years down the road.
We know what's gonna happen in 10 years. 20 years is a pretty long time, but for the foreseeable future, in our own 20-year plan, there's no widening in either of those places in the regional 20-year plan.
Yeah.
So you're right that we don't always know the future,
But
or the foreseeable future.
these might be 20-year projects too, so you got.
Well, if you're widening Blueberry Parkway to 6 lanes, then probably your bigger issue is the cloverleaf with Route 1. That'll be a bigger issue than the bike pedestrian bridge.
And there's also national park land, which you're never going to get through.
Exactly.
So
I'm not talking about the blue-gray, I'm talking about Route 1 and Route 3.
well, Route 3 is blue-gray, right there. I mean, you're not gonna,
That's called blue-gray?
yeah, it's called blue-gray there, and it's sandwiched between national park land,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
gray going through here, national park land on this side, and then the development on this side. So they won't really be able to do any widening there. They'll never be able to get national park land for it. But in any case, you do have valid concerns, and we do have to worry about it when we build these sorts of things, future widening. But in those areas, we looked into it, and there aren't any.
Does anybody else have questions?
Spotsy County, they got it done from Salem Church to Gordon, is that correct?
Yes.
It's complete?
They've got it from Salem Church to Gordon, and then they've got it planned and partially funded going down from the park there towards the intersection of Harrison Road and Salem Church. And then they've got chunks of it proffered along Harrison Road, not built yet, but
Or
Probably.
back behind Hazelwild and down through that sewer line?
yeah, actually, yes, there's
Yep.
a Twin Springs or.
Right,
Yeah,
Right.
that area over there, part of that's proffered, so they're just building little pieces of it, and that's the alternate route along Harrison, and then coming up through Twin Springs toward the tunnel. So they're trying to get it there.
is it,
It's
I
not-
know that sewer line runs straight from your tunnel all the way to, almost Salem Church Road.
Okay,
It wouldn't be that hard to construct that part. And I know they probably won't even think about it until you cross 95. Then they'll think about it.
That'll get them going.
Yeah, it would.
Does anybody else? Well, this is wonderful to see, and I like how everything just really seems to be rooted in common sense. It's especially just going for the shortest, most reasonable route possible, especially there at Route 1, knowing that people are just going to cross over the road anyway. They're not going to go all the way up and loop around. So yeah, this is great. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. 7B, endorse this particular resolution approving fiscal year 2024 Unified Planning Work Program.
So I actually give a quick preface for both, all B, C, and D. These are all going in front of the policy committee for approval. The one that's up first here, the UPWP, the Unified Planning Work Program. If FAMPO is a consultant, this is our scope of work for the next year. So this is what we make available that says this is what is going to be outlined and how staff is going to both divide its time and what categories we're going to look at. So if you could jump to page 20, there you go, 4.0. This is kind of outlining a lot of FAMPO's tasks. So people like what I do, I particularly do short range transportation planning, some congestion management, a little bit of TDM. I do a fair amount of transit and a couple of other special planning projects. Connor kind of does similar work, but a little bit more GIS focused. Carrie does some of the more long range planning, as well as she does some of the rural work program and other items. Coley does public participation. Naturally, Ian is the FAMPO administrator and does the administration, a couple other things, but Becky Golden would also fall into that. So these are the categories where kind of FAMPO is designated to kind of do its planning work. So in this document that's going before the policy committee is just for them signing off and saying, this is what you're going to be working on for the next year. So throughout that document, it kind of outlines things. It will get down there's a list of several different items and deliverables throughout. And so if it's not something that is directly allocated in this area, we have to be directed by the policy committee or another task has to be done to add it to our workflow. But other than that, as long as it's in this document, that's something that we can study. So this isn't, I'll put all these things in action items because just for this board's relationship that it applies to the policy committee, if you wish to endorse it or want to endorse it for them to adopt, you may do so. So.
Did you want to go through all three of these, or do you
I
want
would
to handle
if
each
you
one?
wanted
No, let's just go through all of them.
Okay. The river crossing study. So you've seen the river crossing study and report previously and made a recommendation to it. Since that time, no, it's fine. I'm waiting for mine to go off. So with the river crossing study, what's happening with this one, it's already been recommended. It's already been recommended for funding for the policy committee. This is coming back to the policy committee to accept the document as its final form. There's been no major substantial changes either to the data analysis or to the recommendations. There have been more grammatical, clerical, and small example changes to some of the content. Some addressed from comments from the community, from the policy committee, from staff. And so what's included here is going to probably be the final draft version here. So the document will still probably will be made available in the policy committee agenda for their approval. And that should be going out, I believe, is it next week? It's policy meeting is the 26th. But they're going to be either, they will be voting to accept this as a formal planning document within FAMPO. And that has the repercussions for that is whether or not anything, not necessarily the NEPA study going forward, but if say VDOT, DRPT, or any other agencies doing something that we can say in that area, we can say this is an approved document. You got to kind of follow and address whatever's been identified in here to a limited capacity. So yeah, that's what's going in front of the document. And then for the
Well, just on that real quick, and
Okay.
so just for clarification, this does not codify any particular options or anything like that. This does not put lines on maps or review for taking a look at any of that kind of stuff. Everything is still extremely speculative at this
yes, exactly. This is basically if I was submitting a paper to a professor, this would be the professor's email that says, I have received it and I've accepted for, as a document. Right. So, yes.
Could we see page 26 of the report? Since it was brought up earlier.
of the land use map. Yeah, that one.
Is that it?
Land development patterns?
Yeah.
So this is from the Department of Natural Resources, or is it? DCR.
I believe it's DCR.
It's
pulling
got
the
it
wrong
on there.
states. And this is based on their rationalization model based on existing, both land use and infrastructure of what either they believe to be developed or already developed. So it's basically saying, hey, based on the information they have, behind the scenes, is this place either already developed, they can pull satellite data, or if it's developed, what is the likelihood that it is going to be developed based on factors such as sewer, water, easements, other social economic factors.
Okay, so what does brown mean?
The brown means high growth pressures likely to develop, if not already.
All right, thank you.
But for anything to change with that, it would take action by the Stafford County Board of Supervisors. If there's going to be a rezoning or anything like that, that ball is in their court.
Yeah, we don't have authority.
Well, so there's another public comment later if you want to make another public comment later. Is that okay? Okay.
Okay, and then item D. I just wanted to bring this to your attention because this is actually a fairly significant TIP amendment. So we're actually in the process of approving our fiscal year 24 through 27 transportation improvement program. But this is a kind of a late stage change to the previous one, or the outgoing one. VDOT is kind of moving and rebalancing some of its funding. If you actually bother to go through, it's mostly on maintenance items, but they're moving $25 million around here and there. And if you can scroll down, Connor, there, the TIP thing, sorry. So you have maintenance, preventative maintenance for bridges included in this, and they are adding about, what's that? 700,000 there, 100,000 for that. They're adding, if you scroll down for maintenance, preventative maintenance, system preservation, they're adding about $15 million. They're kind of rebalancing the FY23 dollars at the last minute, depending on kind of how their source of funding is coming through. And then for traffic and safety operations, they've amended that to add another $2.7 million. And they're basically bringing some of their expenditures back into line with the plan. So it's not uncommon, but I just wanted to make sure that this group is very much aware that, you know, there is some type of kind of need to rebalance both what's in our transportation improvement plans as well as what is in the actual TIP. Otherwise, they don't get reimbursed by the feds.
All right. All right, so we have to take each one of these as a separate motion for endorsement. Would anybody like to make a motion to endorse item B for the fiscal year 2024 Unified Planning Work Program? So this would be for CTAC's endorsement of FAMPO to do their work this year.
I move to endorse resolution 2320.
All right. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item C, is there a motion for endorsement of the river crossing study report?
I move.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion?
I'd like Spotsylvania added.
Talk to them about it. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Ayes have it. All right, item D, the approving the amendments to the Transportation Improvement Program, additional funds, maintenance group, project groupings, yada, yada, yada. Is there a motion to endorse that?
I move to endorse resolution 2330.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. Okay. We've moved on to item 8, election of officers. We had a good, long, robust discussion last meeting about this. We do have a couple people that have stepped up to take on the leadership roles in the committee. It was Nick was stepped up for chair and Tim stepped up for vice chair. So if anybody wants to make motions to codify any of that or make any endorsements of anybody else, feel free to do so now.
I have a question.
Yes.
If Nick is not here, can he be nominated?
Yes, he could be nominated if he's not here.
Does he know that he can be nominated?
He knows he's getting nominated.
Okay,
Is that a nomination for Nick?
sure. I move
Okay.
to nominate Nick. Can I move to nominate both of them, or do we need to do one at a time?
Let's do it separately just so there's no questions about it.
Okay. Move to nominate Nicholas Kwatnowski
Yes.
to be the chair.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm not allowed to vote.
You are.
Sure.
You're all good to go
Yes.
now. They got you fixed. Rupert's going to be good to go later this month because his new commission starts then.
You're good.
But you're good. We couldn't have started the meeting without you because we had to have our 5 people. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Congratulations to Nick. Let him know.
Okay.
And do we have a nomination for vice chair? Brett, did you want to do that one too?
Sure, except I have already forgotten your name, sir.
Tim Tim
Tim.
Welsh, yeah.
Who wants? Is there a second? Thank you. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you again for stepping up for that.
No problem.
And again for Nick. And with that, we go on to staff reports for TAC and Policy Committee.
First off, traditionally, this is something that the vice chair does, but since I am now acting vice chair in lieu,
Oh, geez.
you get to present you with a certificate of appreciation for serving as a vice chair and then chair for the year. So the staff and me and everybody else says thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. We're working on getting bigger trophies. Maybe next
This is
year.
big enough. This is more than enough. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, on to actual policy and TAC updates. So the last policy committee meeting was May 15th. It was held at VDOS Deacon Road. It was held at expanded capacity because we actually learned prior to all the meetings. This room actually has an occupancy rating of 24. So we're actually fairly limited now to what we can host here, but luckily we were able to host that meeting. Where more folks, I would say between 60 and 80 folks showed up with a significant amount of public comment. The main item on the agenda for that one was the river crossing study, as well as the congestion mitigation, air quality, surface transportation block grant, and the carbon reduction program funding allocation, which included funding for the river crossing study. And the policy committee voted to continue that work onto the NEPA study, as well as fund the dozen or so projects in the CMAQ, STVG, and CRP programs as well. So you'll also be seeing Harrison Road interchange study funding, road winding study funding. City has a couple of projects with the William Street corridor study and right now I'm blanking on their other study. Oh, the VCR ADA accessibility study. And Stafford is getting additional funds for the Garrisonville Road multimodal study, which they're repurposing, as well as the river crossing study, as well as other projects through the region. So that was approved. For the TAC agenda, for the TAC meeting that was June 5th, They actually did most of the items that you see before you here. The other big change is that they elected their officers. So Matt Lane of Stafford County is the new chair. And then the other item before them is that currently VDOT is making a recommendation to change the number of projects that are that entities can apply for their smart scale applications. Currently, we have GWRC, the counties, and FAMPO each have five each. So GWC can do up to 5, and then eventually one has to be screened out. So it's 5 pre-applications, but only 4 can be submitted. Same for FAMPO. VDOT right now is saying that their rate of accepting 37% of the projects is too low, and they wish to reduce the number of applications that jurisdiction. So we would lose half of all of our projects that we're able to submit because we're considered to be a smaller jurisdiction. And so their reasoning is that they want to improve quality. FAMPO is actually writing a letter working with our jurisdictions and other partners that says, hey, we're not really a fan of this because staff has done an analysis that basically said we wouldn't just lose half of our projects, we would only get 40% because it would actually impact us because we've been a little bit stronger in our previous rounds. We have some of the higher quality, so artificially limiting what we can because you're worried about quality issues elsewhere in the state that would actually impact us because we're competing higher. It's going to actually limit what projects we can have. And we looked at it as that it could even impact worse because we have to select the 4 projects. We work with GWRC and the counties. We kind of try to strategically pick which ones we're going to do. And with 2, you know, there's always 1 or 2 projects that you know you have to submit because you're just trying to find something. Like Garrisonville Road was one of the recent examples where it scores very poorly. It initially got funding and then it got funding pulled later or lost funding later. And so we know that that was going in, but it will never score very well based on their current metrics, but we can't not put it in. And so we would be constantly giving up spots for projects out of necessity that won't score as well because all of a sudden we have to pick between 2 projects versus having 4 projects. So it kind of hurts us in a weird way that's particularly unique because we're being kind of grouped in with all the other smaller jurisdictions. Some of the bigger jurisdictions are losing some spots, but they're not getting half. They're getting a smaller reduction. So it's redistributing towards bigger jurisdictions.
Tell me if this is a wrong read, but are we getting punished because we've been organized and efficient and we've been presenting things in such a way that we come out on top? And
I don't think it's directed at FAMPO specifically.
Okay.
That's the one good thing. We don't think it's that. We think that it's a VDOT saying we don't have enough staff to do all the applications. The trick is that the funding that they have or made available has doubled. So they're handing out more money, but potentially reducing the number of applications we can put in because they want to increase the quality. They don't want to have to score as many applications. At least that's from our initial readings on that. Where it hurts us is that being kind of that mid-sized region, we are kind of in this, if you only give us 2 projects, we have a lot more population than some of the others where, you know, 2 projects would make sense.
yeah.
But we also know that we're not as, it's not hitting some of the bigger jurisdictions in the same way.
Yeah, but that's tough because it's like, okay, so, you know, fewer submissions, but more money. So then the average cost per submission is going to go way up, right? So it's a lot of these smaller, but still critical projects. You know, you're not incentivized to put those forward.
Yeah, particularly if you're limited to 2 applications.
Right.
So the TAC is currently working with both policy committers and then to write a letter saying, hey, we know you have more money, hire more staff, and keep the number of applications coming.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay.
And that kind of sums up the TAC and policy committee. They won't be meeting until August. So they have the same meeting
Okay.
schedule as us.
I did notice one small issue with the agenda. Usually we have the public comment, then we have the second public comment. I noticed that the second public comment isn't in here. Would anybody have any objection to putting in the second public comment now? Without objection? Okay. Is there anybody else here who would like to make public comment? Because I think you might have had a clarifying comment or something.
Yes. And if you wouldn't mind, the gentleman asked about page 26.
Yeah, no problem.
So what I see in here, the document, on the document, it is a lot lighter in color. So you can see that there's a color variation, and that could just be, but what I would like to do is orient to where our neighborhood is. And so if you can enlarge, and this is sort of celebrate, we're talking about here, okay? So you can see in orange, to the naked eye, when you drive through the neighborhood, you may not see buildings and roads and more buildings and more buildings right now, because as the document says, these things are on the table. They're in the planning. They have been submitted, not necessarily acted upon. So what I would like to stress and what I would like to say is that all of this area is spoken for in some fashion. That's the bird's eye view that I've been trying to give you some idea about your ability to control the speed and to control the pylon. Because look what's spoken for. Can't keep saying yes, 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 and not expect some fallout to occur to the environment that we're living in, that we pull our well water from, the air that we breathe, the river that gets filtered by the trees in this area that go down to the Rappahannock and keep it clean. So what's happening is that somebody has a need. In of itself, it's one need. But look, spoken for, added on, infill. That's what's happening here. And this is where we live. A couple of pepper flakes in the sea of orange. These pepper flakes are homes, are families, hardworking people who have retired and don't need any more. We're surrounded by spoken for plans that haven't happened, but will happen. So right now, I'm a year, only 1 year in my house. I bought the house. My husband and I thought about retiring. Fredericksburg, nice, open. They have a plan for the natural area. 1 year to the day I find out that there are all these plans. And then I look at this map and say, oh my goodness, what I came to the neighborhood for is not what I see. And it will not be what I see in another year, in another 2 years, in another 3 years, because how long is it going to take for these plans to take fruition? The plans that are already on the table, the plans that are in planning mode right now. Day by day, this is being eaten up. What we're talking about in terms of rezoning allows more of this to happen. We're not going to put more houses. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do the celebrate, build 500 homes in one area. No, that's been said in the document, page 26. No, we're not doing any more of that. But what's there, we're going to reap. we're going to take, because infill is allowed, but it can only be allowed at this present moment. If you look at the Stafford County, I don't know if you have a DocuCam, but if you look at the Stafford County zoning, like I said, the zones are set. If you don't rezone, this will stay as it is. If you do rezone, we're in jeopardy because that infill becomes industrial. There is land that looks green. Come to find out, it's on the docket. More planning, the infill, the warehouses, the shops. It's going to change what we see. So this is like an amoeba, and it is strangling us slowly. Week by week, month by month. There might not be any FAMPO planning meetings for the next month, 2 months. We might not get back to it until September. But in the meantime, it's working. These things are happening. They're happening on somebody's desk over here. They're happening on somebody's desk over here. We're in different committees. We might not be talking and realize that this is the same area. We are doing this and impacting these little pepper flakes, hardworking families.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, would anybody else like to make a public comment? All right, 10A, VDOT reported problem and progress updates. I'll start with that. I was asked to make a collection of different signage issues in the area. I was going to pass that off there. I will give you an actual digital copy of that as well. Nothing too crazy. It's all stuff that we had talked about too. Does anybody else have anything else that they had flagged VDOT for?
No VDOT rep is here, correct?
Right.
But you're gonna call them and tell them?
If you want me to.
Snow Creek on 17, between New Post and Port Royal, right there past Belvedere's entrance. When you go down, not the first bottom, but the second bottom.
By the county line.
Snow Creek, right at the county line. In fact, the county line is Snow Creek. The southbound lanes, somebody needs to check that culvert because I believe it's getting worse and worse and worse. And they might end up with an issue like they had down around Rappahannock Academy, where they had to shut it down.
Well, that took them no time to fix, so I mean,
Yeah, well, but somebody ought to go check that out. Because
couple of years.
like a lot of people are going in the left lane to not destroy their car. Yeah.
That makes them perk up a lot faster if they say that.
Yeah. Well, I do. And if you're in a loaded tractor trailer, it's even worse. So that's one thing that they should take a look at.
Okay.
And actually,
So go ahead.
but I don't know if this would be a VDOT thing or a.
We'll figure it out.
Okay. So I take my mom down to Hughes Home, and I don't know the name of the street, but I know I go straight down. And right before you get to the homes back here, trying to make that left to go into that street so you can make it right back on Caroline. I can't tell you how many times I almost get hit because you cannot see.
For the orange car?
Well, even when the orange car is not there, you cannot see them coming. I don't know if because
And they're coming fast too.
they're coming right around there because of the light.
I'm
So
trying to
it's,
think.
Princess Anne
Princess
and,
Anne, the little street.
I don't know that.
It's
little
right
cross
before
street.
Hazel Hill.
Yeah.
Hazel Hill apartment.
Wait, is it Dixon or is it? We're
that
talking about
Dixon?
Princess Elizabeth.
Yeah, Dixon and Princess Anne.
Yeah, where everybody's coming in from the south. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
If they could just, I mean, at least put a mirror, a traffic mirror there, something. Because every time I go down there, even when I go to Hazel Hill, you pretty much take your life in your own hands.
Is it that people are like cutting over to the left
No, so they're
early?
making the turn off of, I guess is that Charles or Dixon?
Dixon, that's Dixon.
making a turn
And
and
then they're heading to Caroline.
because
Yeah.
there's no stop sign,
That's
it's
awesome.
only stop signs for when you go down. So even the bus actually has to cross that street to go into Hazel Hill. And I'm telling you, a couple of times, they're slamming on brakes because they cannot drive in that area. I'm not saying they can't drive, it's just dangerous. I know the intersection is just dangerous.
A mirror would work.
Yeah, traffic mirror, so
Yeah.
at least you can see what's coming.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it doesn't,
right.
well,
Slow them down.
I mean,
We'll
give me
explain
a
to
warning.
Well,
Right.
everybody comes onto Dixon Street at highway speed. Just
Mm.
the same speed that they were going on Tidewater Trail, they'd maintain it on the Dixon.
However, it's over there by those apartments where people actually walk
Yeah,
to come up Princess Anne or walk down to Charles Street. It's just that little area right there is just dangerous.
Mm.
And if nobody cuts the trees or the little bushes on there, you really can't see. And it also concerns me because I think that's downtown Greens where you have people and children stopping and those cars are just whizzing by.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a VDOT thing or that's a county.
It's a city, that's a city.
it's a
Yeah.
city thing. It is a primary route. I don't know if that's a city. It's a city thing.
Can I get some information about who I need to go to the city to address this?
Who at the city would be best for that? Someone.
Public Works, somebody in
I
public.
was gonna guess that, but yeah.
I was quietly actually gonna say Jamie Jackson, but they're on maternity leave right now, so Mike Craig might be the next backup option right now.
Or was, because I thought she's just director of transportation, or just with Fred, is a,
And the city for
Okay.
transportation, so
okay, yeah, she's still.
where's both hats?
Okay.
Could you give her that contact
Yeah.
information?
Um,
And then
If it's
yeah.
Jamie Jackson, I have her contact.
Oh, okay, great. And then if it's not her, then she probably will know where that needs to go to then.
Because there's gonna be it's gonna be a fatality in there. It is really gonna be a fatality.
Yeah, it's a little there too. Does anybody else have anything else on that? Okay, any member reports, topics of interest, partner information?
I'd like to just emphasize that Stafford County has a comprehensive plan that was approved in 2021. It has maps of recommended zonings of the area, then it has a zoning map, has a transportation plan, has the trail plans. It's, I don't know, it's probably about 300-page document, so it would be good to look at, especially if you're planning on moving into a new house or a new area in the county. You should look at that. You could just get a visual of what's proposed in the area. Yes.
Yes.
If anybody wants to email me at jsbrito@aol.com, and I'll send you a link to it. jsbrito@aol.com.
And I'll make a plug for the Stafford County GIS site. So if you go to Stafford County GIS, just Google it, it'll take you there. We do have comprehensive plan layers. So if you want to see a particular part of the county and then turn on those layers, you can just take a look and see what's planned.
I'll make a plug that at the next policy committee meeting in June, that is going to be most likely a topic on their agenda is looking at I think it's actually going to be the 5 jurisdictions that we're actually looping in.
Zoning,
Yeah,
and then the 3 would be,
zoning, both zoning and future land use considerations. So we're actually zippering all that information up, and the policy committee will at least start a discussion on kind of land use within this, because FAMPO doesn't do land use, but they do talk about it.
I also want to emphasize that there's a lot of limitations to construction of infrastructure. Stafford County, for instance, 40% of the soil in Stafford County doesn't perk. Another over 40% doesn't support footings that well. The topography is very rough and there's not too many areas that are flat, so that creates problems. 14% of the county is resource protection area. And then you got 95 going through the middle of it, so it interferes with extending infrastructure. And then you got the train tracks interfering. You got Quantico to the north that creates, problems, extending infrastructure. You got the Potomac River to the east, and you got the Rappahannock River to the south. So it creates a lot of limitations, and then you add to that water and sewer and so forth. That's very hard to extend because of the hills and so forth. Every hill, you have to pump the sewer over it, so I don't know how many hundred, there's well over 100 sewage pump stations down. Anyway, I just wanted to emphasize the limitations of developing and.
Thanks for sharing. Thank you. Do you want to go over the future agenda items?
Okay, sure. So this has actually been tabled kind of at the TAC subcommittee and TAC level. So FAMPO has been in the process of trying to revamp how it distributes its CMAQ, STBG, and blood gram, congestion mitigation, air quality, and carbon reduction fund grant methodology. Basically, how we score that to make the recommendations of what projects get funded in the region. The TAC subcommittee did not meet in May nor June. We've had staff level conflicts from the jurisdictions that, when the new train item coming in Spotsylvania happened, they picked the day where they were meeting, and so things have just gotten tabled. So that will be a future agenda item coming in the future. I was thinking it was going to be coming sooner, but with that being tabled, that methodology will not, but I'll bring it back in front of you so you know how the jurisdictions are writing the rules to make sure that they get their projects funded first. Where the applicants get to write what they want.
Okay. So before we go, I just want to say thank you again to everybody on the committee for making my time as chair very enjoyable. I feel like we've had a lot of really good discussions, and I'm looking forward to all the other great discussions that will continue on with our new leadership. And please remember, don't show up here in July. We don't have a meeting. Come back in August. And again, a big thank you to you, John, to Ian, to all FAMPO staff. Thank you for making this as good as it was. Appreciate it.
Straight point?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've asked before, when I was on CTAC, we had nameplates, tents, right in front of us, and with our names and the jurisdictions we were from. That seems to have disappeared, and I think there are a lot of us, I've mentioned it before, it's not happening. And I think there are a lot of us that would find it much easier to, among yourselves, to remember names, and also particularly for the public, be able to know, okay, these are our reps, if we can get this back.
It'd be good for us too, because I mean, it's hard enough, we only see each other once a month for the most part. And so, just remembering like, yes, I remember you. Thank you. May I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned.
Can you please